This is the first lesson in our statistical course. We will study on descriptive statistic.
Okay, let's talk about a secret ingredient. It's not on any food label, but trust me, it's in pretty much everything you eat. And that ingredient is statistics.
So how does that even work? I mean, have you ever stopped to wonder why every single bottle of ketchup tastes exactly the same, no matter where you buy it? Or how a company can confidently stamp a use-by date on a carton of milk? Well, it's not magic. It's math.
The answer to all of this is tucked away inside the powerful science of statistics. It's the toolkit the food companies rely on every single day to make sure the products that end up in your kitchen have the quality, the safety, and, of course, the taste you expect. So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to break down the basics, starting with the two main flavors of statistics. Then we'll get into how companies gather their data. From there, we'll look at how they figure out the typical results and, maybe most importantly, how they measure consistency. Right, so statistics isn't just one single thing. You can think of it as being split into two main fields, and each one has a totally different job. It's kind of like a chef's kitchen, right? You've got different tools for different tasks.
On one side, you've got what's called descriptive statistics. This is basically like tasting the soup you just made to see if it needs more salt. You're describing what you have right there in the pot. Then you have inferential statistics. This is more like using a tiny test batch of a new recipe to predict whether it's going to be a national bestseller. For today, we're going to focus on that first toolkit, just describing the data.
Okay, so before you can analyze anything, you need your ingredients. And in our case, that's data. But here's the thing. You can't possibly test every single cookie or every single bag of chips. So the very first step is getting your head around the difference between the whole batch and just a little taste.
In the world of stats, the population is everything. It's the entire group you want to know something about. So if you're a juice company, your population might be every single apple harvested for your brand, this entire season. We're talking millions upon millions of apples. Now, obviously, there's no way you're going to test every last one of those apples. It would take forever, and it would be incredibly wasteful. So instead, you take a sample, and that's just a smaller, manageable group that gives you a good idea of what the whole population is like. So you might grab a few apples from each truckload as it comes in. And this is the perfect way to think about it. You don't have to eat an entire pot of soup to know if it's any good, right? You just taste a spoonful. Well, that spoonful is your sample, and it tells you everything you need to know about the entire population, the whole pot of soup.
Okay, so we've got our sample data. Now what?
Well, the first thing you usually want to do is find a single number that can kind of represent the whole group. Statisticians call this finding the central tendency, but really it's just about finding that typical flavor. And the most common way to do this is with the mean, which you already know. It's just the good old average. You add up all your values, divide by how many there are, and bam. Simple, yeah? But it's used everywhere in the food industry. It's incredibly powerful.
I mean, the mean is absolutely essential for quality control. It's how companies make sure that, on average, every bag of chips that leaves the factory is the weight it's supposed to be, or that the average amount of calcium in a serving of yogurt actually matches what's on the label.
All right, next up we have the median. To get this, you just line up all your data points from smallest to largest, and the median is the one sitting right in the middle. Now, here's why that's so useful. It doesn't get thrown off by one or two really weird values, what they call outliers, that can sometimes mess up the average. And the last one for finding the center is the mode. This one is probably the easiest of all. It's just the value that pops up most often in your data. Whatever number or category you see more than any other, that's your mode. The mode is perfect for answering questions about popularity. Let's say you're doing a taste test for a new line of ice cream. The mode tells you, flat out, which flavor was the fan favorite. It's a direct line into what consumers want most. But, knowing the center of your data is really only half the story. Just as important, maybe more important, is knowing how consistent your data is. Are all your measurements clustered tightly together, or are they all over the map? This is where we measure the spread, or what's called variability. Now, the simplest, quickest way to get a feel for the spread is the range. You just find the highest value in your data, find the lowest, and subtract. It's a quick and dirty way to get a rough idea, but it's not super precise. For a much more precise, much more powerful measure, we use what's called the standard deviation. And this one is a really big deal. It tells us, on average, how far each data point strays from the mean. It is the absolute gold standard for measuring consistency.
Okay, now don't let this formula scare you. Seriously, you don't need to memorize it or anything. The only thing you need to understand is what it gives you. A single, clean number that tells you exactly how consistent or inconsistent your product is.
So here's the bottom line. A low standard deviation is good. That's what you want. It means all your data points are huddled really close to the average. Think of a perfect batch of French fries. Every single one is perfectly crispy. Now, a high standard deviation, that's bad. That means your product is a mess. Some fries are crispy, some are soggy, some are burnt, and that inconsistency is a disaster for a company. And that is exactly why this all matters so much. For a food company, hitting a small standard deviation is the ultimate goal. It's statistical proof that their quality control is actually working. It's how they can guarantee that the soda you buy today will taste just as good as the one you buy 6 months from now.
So, let's wrap this all up. Statistics is that invisible science that makes sure our food is high quality and consistent. We use descriptive stats to find the center, or the typical value, and the spread, which tells us about consistency. And remember, a low spread, a small standard deviation, means you're getting a reliable product every single time. So when it all comes down to it, what is statistics? Well, it's the science of turning a bunch of raw numbers into real, useful knowledge. Knowledge that helps make our food safer, more consistent, and, let's be honest, a whole lot more delicious. So, the next time you open a bag of chips or grab a carton of juice, just take a second. You're not just holding a snack. You're holding the end result of countless calculations, samples, and standard deviations. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What hidden data will you be tasting?
Thank you. Disclaimer: Artificial intelligence, AI, was used in the development of selected instructional materials in this lesson. The use of AI is intended to enhance clarity, visualization, and learning engagement. While all academic content has been reviewed and guided by the instructor,